Hello and welcome. Today I will be presenting on music teaching and learning for students with special needs in the general music classroom. My name is Rebecca Brink. I have been teaching music for 18 years in total and 12 years abroad. I'm currently the Community Life Director for a senior living community, but will be returning to music teaching in August and am presenting this project in my role as a graduate student at Morningside College. At present, there is little known about music teaching and learning for students with special needs in the general music classroom. Many teachers are, or feel, unprepared to address and support the instruction of students with special needs, and the research is sparse and sporadic. This study is a systematic review of the literature, which seeks to gather all relevant literature, code and analyze the literature, and discover themes. It is hoped that this research can provide a firm foundation for further research and the creation of interventions and instructional supports for use in the music classroom. The discipline of music has a long-standing commitment to inclusion, which, according to Hamill and Darrow, has been practiced in music classrooms since the mid-19th century. In 1967, the Tanglewood Declaration solidified that commitment by proclaiming in writing that all students deserve high-quality instruction. According to Garrity, in current educational customs, music is one of the first classrooms in which inclusion is practiced. In fact, Van Wielden and Whipple assert that 99% of teachers surveyed said all students with special needs in their school took music classes. However, despite this commitment to inclusion, the research indicates that teachers feel unprepared to instruct, differentiate, modify, and assess students with special needs. As you can see, there is a significant body of literature which points to teachers' apprehension and their perceived lack of training needed to support their students. I chose to research this topic because I believe music is a powerful force and a defining feature of humanity. It's an integral part of my life, and I believe that all students should have the opportunity to study music for music's sake. As a teacher, I recognize a lack of training and knowledge in this field. I didn't receive any pre-service training on teaching children with special needs and have very rarely seen music-specific in-service training regarding students with special needs. As the mother of an amazing little girl with Down syndrome, this topic is very personal to me, and I want to ensure that my daughter has the same access to excellent music education that I did. And that means ensuring that the body of research is robust and teachers are well trained. The literature in this field involving history and policy includes 2 systematic reviews, as well as several articles discussing policy changes and their impact on education and an analysis of the discourse regarding special needs and disabilities. It's noteworthy that the systematic reviews found far fewer research articles than expected, with only 22 studies within a 38-year period, and very few conclusions regarding classroom instruction and interventions. There are many theoretical articles which fall under the advocacy umbrella. Overall, these articles point to a focus on inclusion, the need for collaboration with special education personnel, and the articulation of suggested classroom supports and modifications to improve student learning. Within this section, there are a few research studies that explore successful interventions, most notably Garrity et al. In 2013. This mixed methods study showed that student growth, the development of music skills, and more frequent musical behaviors following an intervention. Also falling under the umbrella of advocacy and strategy are the articles which explore perception and attitude. As you can see from this slide, there have been several studies of this nature within the past 15 years. Each of these studies explore teacher and pre-service teacher attitudes and perceptions of student growth, inclusion, and pedagogical practices. The findings are remarkably similar in that increased experience and interaction with students improves both music teachers' confidence and their comfort. Additionally, these studies all indicate that music teachers desire greater training and education on how to support students with special needs. This includes pre-service training and fieldwork, as well as coursework or professional development. As it currently stands, the body of literature is very sparse and sporadic. It's difficult, if not impossible, to speak comprehensively about evidence-based interventions because the literature has such large gaps. Many areas of education are not present in the research at all, including assessment, and music-specific interventions are very briefly explored. Much of the literature is theoretical, meaning that it's drawn from the author's own experience or anecdotal evidence, but not empirical research. Additionally, there's a significant amount of research on teacher perception and attitude, but student voice is completely missing. The main goal of this research is to gather relevant literature and make connections between research and researchers who have previously worked in isolation. Through these connections, themes can be discovered and a clearer picture of the current knowledge and understandings can be achieved, which will help pave the path forward. As a systematic review, this research serves as a first step to understanding and improving instruction. It's unlikely that this research will directly impact classroom instruction. However, it is hypothesized that this study will indicate the need for greater teacher training and a more solid and comprehensive research base, which can then inform and improve classroom instruction and assessment. This study is a systematic review, and as such, there were 3 major steps in the process. Literature is gathered, literature was coded, and themes arose from the literature. I initially identified a time frame of 2001 to 2021 because that encompassed No Child Left Behind and the Every Student Succeeds Act. I began my search for literature with a database search using primarily Google Scholar, JSTOR, and ERIC. In some cases, I cross-referenced between databases and used the more interlibrary loan for articles that weren't available otherwise. This initial search resulted in 22 articles. In order to find more articles, I then used footnote chasing and read the footnotes and references of articles I already had to find more sources. This yielded an additional 20 articles. This graphic will help explain the overall progression in finding sources and then further limiting the study. After finding all the relevant literature, there were 42 articles, which was too large of a scope for this project. So additional limitations of topic and time frame were imposed. Articles needed to be published within the past 10 years, and those of a purely historical or policy-based nature were omitted. Additionally, an unpublished master's thesis was omitted due to concerns about the validity of the study and relevance to this research. Articles were then coded using researcher-developed coding sheets. These sheets included basic information regarding publication information, variables, participants, setting, and funding. Articles were then reread and important concepts or ideas were highlighted. Finally, a literature matrix was created and articles were examined a 3rd time and themes put into the literature matrix. 5 major themes emerged from this detailed analysis of the literature. They are teacher training, collaboration, inclusion, perceptions and attitudes, and interventions and strategies. An analysis of the literature matrix generated very illuminating results. More than 50% of the articles analyzed were theoretical in nature and not research-based. Only 4 articles were quantitative research, and 75% of these articles were written by the same co-authoring team. Every single one of the quantitative research studies explored teacher attitudes and perceptions, as did one of the 2 mixed method studies and the sole qualitative study. Only one study, Garrity et al., explored student learning, but the setting was in a weekend arts class at a local university rather than a traditional music classroom. An examination of the themes from the literature showed that 94% of the articles discussed interventions and strategies for students with special needs in the music classroom. This is encouraging, but it's also important to note that only one of these articles was research-based and the rest were theoretical and built on anecdotal evidence or author experiences. This doesn't discount their contribution to the field, but does limit their transferability and the validity of their claims. The interventions ranged from differentiated instruction to instrument modification. Some strategies, such as multimodal approaches, clarity, consistency, and repetition, were frequently mentioned. Inclusion was discussed in 76% of the articles, although it wasn't the stated variable or main focus of any article. Overall, the literature reaffirmed the previously mentioned belief in inclusion and commitment to inclusion and music for all. The third most common theme was teacher training, and this was discussed in 71% of the articles, even though it was only the direct focus for one article, Hamill and Garrity in 2012. Each of these articles confirmed that music teachers often feel apprehensive and unprepared to teach students with special needs, and they long for pre-service training and fieldwork, as well as in-service professional development. The literature also showed that music teachers are often unaware of laws and policies regarding students with special needs, which connects to the fourth most common theme, collaboration, which was discussed in 65% of the articles analyzed. Overall, the literature suggests that collaboration is crucial and should be encouraged, but music teachers don't feel supported by special education personnel and are frequently not included in the IEP process or student placement. The final theme that arose from the literature is that of attitudes and perceptions, which was discussed in 41% of the articles analyzed. Although this was only discussed in 7 of the 17 articles, it is significant that it was the main focus, or one of the main foci, of every single quantitative study, one of the mixed methods study, and the sole qualitative study. Only one article mentioned parents' perception, and the rest of the dialogue involved teachers' perceptions. The current literature on music teaching and learning for students with special needs is very limited. The scope is not expansive, and many important topics have not been explored at all or only briefly. This study is limited to a 10-year time frame, and a more expansive study would yield greater results. A study from 2001 to 2012, which includes No Child Left Behind and the Every Student Succeeds Act, would be ideal, as these policies had a significant impact on music education, and it would be beneficial to see how the research community responded to these legislative changes. The researcher has created a few recommendations based on the finding. First, it's very apparent that more research is needed. The body of literature is simply not hardy enough, and more vigorous research into every area of music education is needed. This includes empirical research on interventions and strategies, the inclusion of student and parent voice, assessment and curriculum development or modification, and ways in which music teachers can collaborate with special education personnel. Additionally, the research shows that collaboration with special education personnel should be encouraged and supported so that all teachers can work together to improve student learning. Finally, this research suggests that music teacher training programs should revisit their curricula and include music-specific courses regarding music teaching and learning for students with special needs in the general music classroom. And here are my references used to prepare this presentation. If you would like more references, those are available upon my request, and thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this presentation.